Hey everyone, this is important. It might not make perfect sense by itself, but luckily, I have another video to contextualize it. Ding! So the word ethos is a Greek term for appealing to credibility. It's probably the one word out of these Greek ones I've been talking about lately that you're most likely to have heard before. I seem to hear it thrown around a lot more than logos or pathos. But ethos is all about credibility and, in particular, identity when you're talking about the internet, but also just in general. It's all about establishing who you are in relation to the audience that you're addressing, and who you are in terms of why you're talking about the thing you're talking about. Like, in this video, I'm wearing a fancy, sparkly scarf and top, and not showing you what the rest of my childhood bedroom looks like, and that gives you a different sense about who I am than if I were in my pajamas on my bed and you could see the old posters that I have hung up on these walls. Ways to establish your ethos are proving that you know what you're talking about, emphasizing your shared values between you and your audience, showing that you're reliable or responsible, and or demonstrating respect for who you're talking to. These are all ways to establish an ethos so that your audience will want to hear what you're saying. I present myself in a certain way in these videos, and that has an impact on whether or not you'll want to listen to me. I know that I don't have the best camera, microphone, or editing software, so the fuzziness of the image, or sound quality, or limited use of titles and transitions will affect my ethos. In addition to what I'm wearing, it affects how you perceive me and what you might think of my videos. Sharing certain information about myself also affects my ethos. For example, I recently had a great meeting between the magazine that I'm a part of on campus. It's a little thing called Etherbound Magazine. We publish art and stuff, as well as my university's chapter of the Rhetorical Society. We talked about memes, and memes are like all about ethos. Internet memes are really interesting because they exist primarily in order to share humor with the people that we know. But in doing this, we also end up sharing parts of who we are. And you can say that about pretty much anything we do online. Or anywhere. Memes rely a lot on being relatable, so at the bare minimum, that is what you're sharing when you share memes to people. Some memes communicate very particular messages and arguments. Some are very simple, and others are very complicated. These sorts of things establish an identity for yourself among your friends and in general online, even if it's as simple as just sharing what your sense of humor is. In general, ethos is just basically telling an audience something about who you are, and thinking about that rhetorically leads us to make conclusions about how your ethos affects whatever argument you're making, or how who you are affects whatever argument you're making. All of these memes are messages that communicate something about who you are, and if people pay attention to you, you develop that ethos. Apologies to anyone who is deeply unsettled by feeling that sort of connection to memes. I think it's kind of cool personally. You can also run into ethical fallacies or credibility fuck-ups in memes or otherwise. Like, there's false authority. You might share a post from an unreliable source, like my example from my other video, fakethingsabouutdogs.com. Or you might insinuate that you know something is true even if you don't know the truth, or you know the truth and you just didn't say it. And there's also dogmatism, which is assuming and implying that the argument that you're making is the only possible valid argument. That's a problem in terms of your ethos, because then you're shutting other people's voices down. There's also ad hominem fallacies, where you destroy the credibility of another person in order to make their argument seem invalid. It's a fallacy of ethics and a fallacy to your own credibility by not being open to other arguments. It's really important to consider how people might look at us if we want to convince them of something. It's equally important to consider how credible other people are when they share information that may influence us. If you're interested, I can make another video all about ethical fallacies or credibility fuck-ups. Just let me know if you're interested in seeing that. And don't forget to check out the video I made on how to argue, or my other two videos about these Greek terms on logical and emotional appeals. Thanks!